Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Bava Batra, pages 19 through 25, Yutet through Chafei. 19. The Mishnah tells us that there are certain things you can't place near the wall of your neighbor. And one of those items is Zraim, seeds. You can't sow seeds right up to the property line to the guy's wall. The question is, why was it necessary to say this if we already knew from a previous passage in the Mishnah that you can't water the ground right up against the guy's wall, lest it damage the wall? I would know that you can't plant seeds there because you'd have to water the seeds to make the crops grow. So the Gemara answers, well, it's not guaranteed that Zraim seeds are necessarily going to go with the pouring of water, because Tana Beretz Yisrael Koi, we could be referring to the land of Israel, Dichtiv Miltar Shram Tishtemayim, that the ground will drink the rainwater, meaning you might have crops that are growing exclusively on rainfall and not with human irrigation. So since it's possible to have Zraim without human irrigation, it was necessary for the Mishnah to say you can't put the Zraim flush against your neighbor's wall. 20. Lo yamir adam tanur b'toch habayit. A person cannot fix an oven into his house unless there is at least a distance of 4 cubits between the top of the oven and the ceiling. Why is this necessary? Because you don't want to have a fire that destroys the upper story. So we're protecting the interest of the tenants upstairs. However, if let's say you're the upstairs tenant and you want to place an oven in your part of the house, so it becomes necessary to have plaster of at least 3 handbreadths thick above the floorboards, lest the fire of the oven damage what's below the oven and collapse the place and injure the interest of the tenant downstairs. Now, ve'im hizik, what happens if, despite all these precautions, bad things occurred, a damage happened? Mishalem mashehizik, the Tanakama says, the person who caused the damage must pay the counterparty for what went wrong. Rabbi Shimon Omer, lo amra l'klashun ha'elu, elashim hizik patim l'shalom. Rabbi Shimon says, no. If you followed the protocol, then you're off the hook. You're exempt from paying anything. That the existence of the protocol of the distance of the measurements was just for the purpose of exempting people who play by the rules. Now, if that's the case, then why did the Tanakama say that you do have to pay? What's the point of the rules? The answer is the rules are there to be enforced ab initio to protect from damage occurring. We don't want this to occur. And also because maybe the would-be damager wouldn't have the financial wherewithal to pay. So we're trying to avoid that scenario, and that's why the shiurim exist. 21. Amar Rava. Hi Makri Yanuka. We have a teacher of the children. Degoris, he teaches at a certain pace. Vika Degoris Femine, but there's someone else who teaches the students at a quicker pace. They learn more material per hour. We do not replace the existing teacher who's a little slower, because we're afraid that if we replaced teacher number 1 with teacher number 2, then teacher number 2 will become arrogant and complacent and say, oh, I'm so wonderful, they'll never get rid of me. However, Rav Dimi Amar Koshken Degaris Tfei Kenasofim Tabachachma. No. In fact, we would replace the slower teacher with the faster one, and the faster teacher will not become complacent because he doesn't want to stand accused of any failings that the first teacher might level against him in accusations in public. That the kinat sofrim, the jealousy among the scholars, among the teachers, increases wisdom. That we're happy to see a certain competitive spirit among those who are the teachers of Torah. 22. Ezra tiken lahem Yisrael, shirochlin machzir ba'yaros kadei shir takshin matzin levnos Yisrael. The Ezra established a rule that the peddlers of cosmetics shall go gallivanting around from town to town in order so that beautification products are available readily to the daughters of Israel. That we want marriages to be happy and healthy marriages, and the husbands to think favorably of their wives' physical appearance. So therefore we have to have available cosmetics in all places at all times, and so the peddlers are able to do ply their trade, and we don't impose any restrictions on them based upon existing monopolies at the local level. 23. Nipol ha-nimtza v'sochamishim ama. If you have a young dove was found within 50 cubits of a dovecote, harehu shel bal hashovach. It belongs to the owner of the dovecote. Chutz mechamishim ama. If it's beyond 50 cubits, harehu shel hamotzo. Then it belongs to whoever found the little young dove. Nimsa ben shnei kshavachot. What happens if it's between two dovecotes? Karlo zeshelo, Karlo zeshelo. Well, if it's closer to this guy, it belongs to him. If it's closer to that guy, it belongs to him. Mechza al mechza. What happens if it's equidistant between two dovecotes? Shneim yachloku. Let them divide the found bird and split the difference. 24. Marchikin et ha'ilan min ha'ir asuma chamesh amah. We distance trees from the city 25 cubits. If it's a carob tree or a sycamore tree, we make sure there's a distance of 50 cubits. My timer. Why do we need to do this? Because of beautification of the city. It looks better, it's more impressive if the city and its wall or fortification stands on its own, and then there's a gap of some not inconsiderable amount of space, 25, 50 cubits, and then you have the trees to provide some further beautification. But that gap in between allows you to distinguish between the city and the trees. Looks very nice. 25. We have to make a gap, a distance of 50 cubits between the city and nevelot, animal carcasses, kfarot, burial grounds, cemeteries for the human dead, and bursiki, a tannery. Now, why? Because the smell is horrible from all three of those institutions. The pile of animal carcasses smells terrible. Cemeteries don't typically smell. However, during a funeral, when a dead body is being passed through, it does smell a little bit unpleasant if time has passed and there's been decomposition. And the burski, the tannery, will always smell horrible. Moreover, we only make a tannery to the east side of the city. Why? Because, as Rashi explained, in a ruach hamizrachit kashet tadir, the east wind is typically not very strong, and so the smell will not carry from that direction as much as it might from all the other directions. Everyone have a great week.